Abraham and Isaac, they did not want wives from the territory that they were living in. They wanted wives from where the clan, their own clan of people lived, the Israelites before they were, I think it was war that sort of displaced them. And so it's a reminder to us that we can pray for companions and mates for our children, because they need all the prayers to get the right partner for them. All right, Rebecca became pregnant with twins, and that is in chapter 25. And it's an easy, and I think Shelby read this also from her scripture, but I will read it again. Rebecca became pregnant, and the babies jostled each other within her, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." So when the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys. Actually, this was Peter who said this. And the first one came out red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment, so they named him Esau. And after this, his brother came out, and his hand grasping Esau's heel. So he was named Jacob. And then Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. So all right, so then we go on to, and she had these two boys, and Esau was the hunter, and we had the story, Peter gave us the story of how one day when he came in from hunting, he was famished, and he says, Jacob had just prepared a lovely dish of lentil stew, just the way his father likes it. And Esau said, "Give me some of that stew before I die. I'm so hungry." And Jacob, in his little deceptive mind, he said, I'll give it to you on one condition, that you sell me your birthright. And Jacob, this totally was not a right thing for him to do, but he did. And poor old Esau was so hungry that he said, "All right, what's so good of a birthright? I'm going to die anyhow, I'm famished." And so he got his dish of lentil stew. And so really, Esau exchanged his birthright for a dish of lentil stew. But then when Isaac was old and ready to die, he asked Esau to go out and hunt for some wild game and prepare Isaac a tasty meal just like he liked. And then he would bless Esau, and that, i.e., give him the birthright and all the wealth that came with the I just want to read from our prepared essay here. It says, "The brothers were surrounded by all the markers of their wealth, but they meet on the road, having to ask for forgiveness. Jacob fears Esau will try to carry out the murder that he plotted years ago. He approaches Esau with humility and with a display of humility, at least. and lavish gifts. Rebecca heard all this, and that Esau was going to, and when Esau was about, or no, it was Isaac was about to die and had sent his eldest son out to get some stew, and he was going to get some meat, and he was going to get the birthright. And Rebecca heard all this, and she deceptively dressed Jacob to appear and feel as Esau. So Jacob received the blessing, and of course, as we all know, he nicely had the blessing. And Esau walked in with his meal all prepared for his father to receive the blessing, which he was the oldest one. And poor old Isaac was deceived and distressed. And Esau was furious enough to kill his brother. And Jacob had to flee and went to his uncle Laban's in Haran. And eventually that is where he got his wife Rachel. Life is full of deceptions and reconcilings. And in all of this, sometimes we have to wrestle with God. What should I do? What is the right decision? And in the end of it, all of this, we must forgive. The angels of God are watching over us. We have to forgive. And we have this story of wrestling with God in chapter 32, 22 to 30. That night, when Jacob got up and took his 2 wives and his maidservants and crossed the ford, and they were all prepared to meet Esau, Jacob was left alone. Jacob didn't follow the others. He was alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. And when the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "Well, what is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" And then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God's face to face, and yet my life was spared." And the sun rose, and he was limping now, but it was now time for him to face reality, and Esau was coming with his troops. Would he come with anger? Was he coming to kill him? Or would he come, would he forgive after all these years? Well, we've heard the story already this morning, that they did meet on good terms, in humility and peace, asking for forgiveness. And we don't hear much more about Esau in the Bible, except that they did meet to bury their father, Jacob, but otherwise their father, Abraham, but they met to bury him, but otherwise we don't hear much of Esau. And what intrigues me here is even though Jacob was the deceptive one in this relationship, Jacob is the one that God uses to continue on the line of Israelites that eventually leads us through the New Testament, all those biblical stories, and then to Jesus. So Jacob was the one that was really, truly used by God, and Esau, we're just not certain about what happened to him. This is really the story of our lives today. I have had to wrestle with God, reissues in my own family. But the bottom line is always we must forgive and we must make peace. I'm going to read you a few. There are two devotions from my book Rejoice that I think are worth a hearing. One of them is The Way of Wisdom, and this is the Bible passage was Matthew 11. It is written by a Ruth Meyer Smith, and I possibly, if Art was here, he would recognize that name. There were Myers at the Marks Day Mission, and there were Smiths at the Manettville Mission. So this woman now goes to apparently Nairn Mennonite Church, and her name is Ruth Smith Meyer. And she says, I'm struck by what Jesus says about John and himself. John was accused of having a demon because he neither ate or drank as others did. And when Jesus socialized with others, he was accused of being a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. John and Jesus both faced accusations, and at times we may face accusations as well. This is Ruth speaking, I have sometimes been accused of being way too serious, and others who know me just a little better think I'm not taking life seriously enough. Well, several years ago, another person seemed to have a growing dislike for me. For a long time, despite encouraging her to tell me what changes I could make, she didn't seem to feel safe doing so. When she finally spilled everything out, tearing apart many things I had done inadvertently, I gave her a hug and wholeheartedly thanked her, and she replied in disgust, "Oh, you Mennonites, you're always turning the other cheek." So that may be the reply that you sometimes get when you try to make amends to someone, to ask for forgiveness. They may really not be too happy. And then the other one from this devotional is Wrestling with Our Past. It's written by Jane Byler, who is one of our Mennonite writers. I think she writes for, I'm not quite sure. Her writings are all different places. And the scripture that she looks to is Genesis 32. Who are all these old people, I thought, as I walked into my 45th high school reunion class. I smiled because I, of course, was one of those old people. And although it took a long time to happen, aging came on more quickly than I anticipated. As I age, I have become more retrospective about life, regrets, places, over places and relationships that went awry, dreams and goals unfulfilled. I'm tempted to second guess my life decisions. And if should have I taken one job or another, or made a different decision in parenting, would I have been spared some of the painful parts of my life? Well, when Jacob had left home many decades earlier, his brother Esau vowed to kill him for his deceit. And now on the eve of their reunion, Jacob wrestles with a man. If you look at the picture on your bulletin. Dave, Dave says, I have your God wrestling with man on the front page of your bulletin. Jacob wrestles with a man. Perhaps this man symbolizes Jacob's struggle with his own memories and regrets, the struggle between the deceitful man he was and his current self, who in his old age is contrite and humble. And both then and now, what Jacob wants is a blessing, to be recognized and acknowledged. He cannot undo his past. He can, however, acknowledge the pain it caused others. Jacob will walk away with a limp to remind him of this battle. It is the struggles in life that I wish I could undo when I caused another harm or made decisions that led to loss. Yet without these, I would not have learned my own strength to persevere. I would not have had the same compassion for others who have gone through pain. So I walk with the limp of remembering. And as a Mennonite church, one of the places that we have to really confess and are trying very hard to make reconciliation is to the First Nations people. We have wronged them in many ways, and we are reaching out and we're trying to build bridges of peace, being peacemakers, and build peaceful bridges with them. So as I close, I want to read from this prepared essay here. As we seek to be peacemakers through forgiveness, it is good to remember that relationships involve more than one person. We cannot create peace alone. We can live with kindness, integrity, and forgiveness so that we have peace with God and peace within ourselves. But you need the two sides to be a peacemaker, both those who've been offended and those who are reaching out to those you make to have real peace. When have you been able to mend, when have we been able to mend a damaged relationship? When have we had to forgive someone for our own sake, but been unable to move forward in a healthy way with the relationship? Is there anyone you would like to forgive now? Is there anyone whose forgiveness you would appreciate? God, friendship, and family, where interactions are strained, ease the tension. Where loved ones are distant, bring us closer. Where relationships are broken, grant healing. God, give me the grace to offer forgiveness, and the wisdom to release harmful relationships. Amen. Okay.